Limb lengthening, a procedure previously associated with medical necessity, is now being considered for cosmetic purposes. With advancements in medical technology, people who want to get taller now have an option. But what do the key stakeholders think about this controversial procedure? You know, the surgeons, patients, general public, and medical device companies. Well, let's find out. Hey everyone, Victor here, and today we're going to talk about the acceptance of cosmetic limb lengthening amongst the different groups of people in the industry. We'll explore the stigma and ethics on the procedure and whether or not it's so bad if it's done safely. So cosmetic limb lengthening for height gain is a controversial topic, with some people believing that it's a form of body modification that's super crazy and shouldn't be accepted, while others believe that it's a personal choice that should be respected. But what do the different players in the game think about the surgery? So when it comes to orthopedic surgeons, they're rather divided on the issue of cosmetic limb lengthening. Some surgeons believe that it's a legitimate medical procedure that can help, patients who experience significant psychological distress due to their height. They believe that lengthening can be an option to improve a patient's self-esteem and quality of life if it's performed safely and ethically with proper psychological evaluations and close monitoring along the way. But there's other surgeons that believe that cosmetic limb lengthening is unethical and shouldn't be performed at all. They say that it's a dangerous and unnecessary procedure that can have serious complications, which they're not wrong. In my opinion, I feel there's three different categories that orthopedic surgeons will fall into: the against it completely, the offer it to those they feel would benefit the most, and those who are promoting it and marketing it like the latest iPhone. So the ones who are fully against it are a no-go. I remember once I tried to interview Dr. Stuart Green, who was one of the surgeons who was on the design team of the original Precise Nail. We were chatting back and forth, but once he found out that one of the topics of the discussion would be about stature lengthening, he declined the interview, saying that he was dead set against vanity stature lengthening. Whoa. And he's not alone. There's several other surgeons who agree that limb lengthening should only be used for discrepancies and deformity correction, and refuse to entertain the idea of cosmetic limb lengthening. Then you have the group of limb lengthening surgeons like Dr. Rosbrook, who draws a line in the sand between cosmetic limb lengthening and stature lengthening. In a recent Business Insider article, he mentions that the idea of cosmetic limb lengthening, just for the heck of it, doesn't sit well with him. He says that it devalues what limb lengthening is really about. He does go on to say that stature lengthening is okay for those patients who are limited physically or have constant gnawing thoughts about their short stature on a daily basis. And I feel that many other top-notch experienced and reputable surgeons fall directly in line with Dr. Rosberg's stance, while others might be a little bit more lenient, after they realize that short stature is relative depending on what country and culture that particular patient is from. Regardless, most of the surgeons in this category are highly skilled and can do the procedure safely. And the last category of surgeons are those that actively promote cosmetic limb lengthening as a get taller surgery, point blank. Many of them do this because of the financial incentives that cosmetic limb lengthening offers. It isn't covered by insurance, and thus they can increase profit margins ridiculously. In fact, many of them name their clinics after it, and their marketing tactics can be a bit aggressive as they really try to lure the patients in and bank on their desire to get taller. And a lot of these clinics can keep their costs much lower due to the economic environment that they're in, but many times they often lack proper surgical experience and the ability to dodge crippling complications. And to the prospective patient, it can be hard to know which clinics are marketing cosmetic limb lengthening as a procedure versus offering it as a solution. This may sound the same, but their motives behind each are different. The first group is in it for the money grab, while the latter group is motivated to help their patients with their issues. In fact, I know a few that are falling victim to this temptation by their actions, and it's likely only a matter of time before they're fully overcome with greed. All right, what about the patient perspective? So the patients that have undergone cosmetic limb lengthening are generally very satisfied with the results. They report feeling more comfortable and confident in their bodies after the procedure. However, some patients have experienced complications such as pain, infection, nerve damage, and they often regret their decision, as I explained in a previous video. Patients often mention that they struggle with their height for years and it took a toll on their self-esteem. Then they credit cosmetic stature lengthening for changing their lives and helping them gain confidence like never before. Although they admit that the process was very challenging and required lots of detailed dedication, many are grateful for the opportunity to change something that bothered them so much for so long, and feel more comfortable in their own skin. I'd say from the patient perspective, the majority of them are for stature lengthening. Now, that's not always the case in leg length discrepancy groups, as they feel strongly about limb lengthening only being for medical reasons, but they're also becoming more understanding. Next up, we have the public's opinion on cosmetic limb lengthening, which is all over the place. First of all, due to the massive uptick in media attention on limb lengthening in the past year, society has had a chance to look into the procedure and make unwarranted judgments about those who decide to get it done. Some people believe that it's a personal choice that should be respected. Others believe that it's a form of body dysmorphia and shouldn't be encouraged, and that those thinking about it should reconsider and seek psychological therapy instead. Well, I can tell you that based on the hundreds of actual stature lengthening patients and near 2,000 prospective patients that I've talked to in the past 3.5 years since starting Cyborg for Life, I can tell you that many agree that therapy just doesn't work. I do think, however, that society is slowly accepting the idea of cosmetic limb lengthening. Earlier this year, I did a street-side interview with random people asking what they thought about those considering the procedure as a way to boost their height. Many of them were unbelievably cool with it, which is slowly restoring my faith in society. And I saved the best for last: medical device companies. These biotech giants that manufacture the devices for limb lengthening surgery are very supportive of the procedure, but not on the surface. No, they wouldn't do that. In fact, if you look at any of the websites of the licensed device companies that are used worldwide for the surgery, you'll notice that they never ever say cosmetic or stature on their sites. They only endorse medically necessary procedures like discrepancies, deformities, and so on. But deep down underground, they know that they're thriving because of the stature lengthening community. They're their biggest undercover supporters. I mean, think about it. A discrepancy patient will only require 1 nail, whereas a stature lengthening patient will need 2, which means twice the profits. But how do they keep their hands clean from the controversial industry of cosmetic lengthening and maintain their crispy clean PR? They sell directly to the surgeons who offer this procedure, and they pray that people like me never stop doing what I do by organically providing information about the procedure. In my mind, it's just a bit bizarre. I mean, just think about it. This indirect method of keeping their hands clean with ridiculous profit margins is a bit absurd. At least if you're going to use me to sell your product, pay the boy. I mean, you pay the surgeon consultants who come on here. Anyways, I digress. There's a few ethical implications to consider when it comes to cosmetic limb lengthening. One concern is that this procedure could reinforce social height pressures about taller people being more attractive. Another concern is that it could lead people to developing body dysmorphia, being unhappy with every bit of their body and playing Legos with their body, which is why some sort of psychological examination should be put in place. In fact, I think some clinics actually do. Also, there's the risk of complications from the surgery itself. There's no doubt that this procedure can be dangerous, but it can also be done safely and performed by an experienced surgeon. And finally, is cosmetic limb lengthening so bad if it's done safely? I don't think so. I think this procedure is a form of hope for people who always wish that they could get taller, and now they can. Not only that, but as technology advances, it will improve the lengthening process, making it more appealing to the prospective patient, but also less stigmatized by society. So how do we get there? By working together. Seriously though, as tempting as it is, I feel if surgeons, avoided promoting it as the latest drive-through menu item, or those who weren't as experienced focused on honing their skills and improving patient outcomes, that could definitely help. Also, if patients who went through the procedure had more realistic expectations, either by listening to past patients or they just followed the advice of lengthen and observe, that could also help. I also know that if the medical device companies that manufacture these devices would show support for their most valuable stature lengthening patient customers, it would strengthen the future of limb lengthening as well. And finally, if the general public would listen to patient testimonies showing just how much this procedure has changed their lives for the better, then cosmetic limb lengthening surgery would have a better reputation and the industry would flourish. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. If you have any thoughts on what you think about cosmetic limb lengthening surgery, be sure to put them down below in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. Until next time, this is Victor from Cyborg for Life, signing out. Peace. I'd say from the patient perspectives.